If you didn't know any better, you might think that good old-fashioned, fun, melodic rock and roll is dead. The current state of popular music, at least according to the Billboard charts, is truly awful. Well, don't give up hope just yet, friends. Hi everyone, I'm Paul Crayson, and you're watching Music Mentions. Sometimes my hope in rock and roll is weakened or tested when I see what's popular in the charts these days. It's enough to make an old rocker like me want to hang up his headphones or listen to Ziggy Stardust for the millionth time. But then along comes an album that actually gives me some hope. Today I'm going to be reviewing an album called Pretty Vicious by a band called The Struts. The Struts are a British rock band that formed in 2012 in Derby, Derbyshire. Derbyshire is a county in England just a little southeast of Manchester. Let me touch briefly now on the members of this band. Luke Spiller is 35 years old. He's lead vocals and background vocals and also a songwriter. He really reminds me of Tim Curry from Rocky Horror. Am I right? His onstage persona is a cross between Mick Jagger and Freddie Mercury, as are his vocal stylings, but with an emphasis on Freddie Mercury for sure. Adam Slack is 32 years old. He is all about the guitar. He is also a songwriter in the band. Jed Elliott is also 32 years old, and he's the bassist. And he also has a songwriting credit, at least on one tune on this album. Gethin Davies is 31 years old, and he plays the drums. The Struts sound can be described as 70s-inspired, melodic rock and roll with some glam elements to it. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as even close to metal, but also I don't know if I would necessarily describe it as hard rock. It's meat and potatoes rock and roll. Very obvious influences are Queen and Rolling Stones, but I also hear some Aerosmith, some David Bowie, some T-Rex. I even hear a little bit of Oasis in their stuff. They've already built a reputation as a consistently outstanding live act of very fun and energetic performances. They've opened already for the likes of rock royalty like The Who, Guns N' Roses, Rolling Stones, as well as the Foo Fighters. They've also collaborated on songs with disparate artists such as Tom Morello, Kesha, and Robbie Williams. So let me touch on some quick album notes. The album was released on November 3rd of 2023. It's their fourth studio album. It was co-produced by the band and Julian Raymond. And Julian Raymond is a songwriter, a producer that's worked with the likes of Cheap Trick, Fleetwood Mac, and also the Wallflowers. And also I have to give a special mention to Tim Lauer since he was involved heavily in the creation of this record. Tim Lauer is a Nashville-based musician and an arranger. He's worked with the likes of Sheryl Crow, Megadeth, and Robert Plant. He was the keyboardist on this album, and he also arranged the horns and the strings. So let's take a quick peek at the track listing and the lengths. We've got 11 songs. Pretty Vicious is the longest song at 5 minutes, 10 seconds. Rockstar is the shortest, 3 minutes and 28 seconds. Most of the songs fall somewhere in between that 3.5 and 4.5 minute range. The total album length is a perfect 44.5 minutes. Let's jump over to the album title and the cover. The album title, obviously, is Pretty Vicious. It comes off as a bit of an oxymoron, something like Jumbo Shrimp or Freezer Burn. It certainly suggests some darkness. Although the title is taken from one of the songs on the album, I wouldn't describe the overall feeling or sound of the record as vicious at all. The cover is black and white, showing a female's thighs. She's wearing a black miniskirt, black leather vest, and white boots. The tattoo on the cover is actually real. A fan had heard an early version of the song and got the tattoo. She showed it to Luke Spiller, and he asked her if he could use it for the album cover. He told his photographer to do the photo shoot of her on the London Underground as if she's going to a Struts show. so there's a little bit of a story here. The cover also has a bit of a risque quality to it and reminded me of the famous Montrose cover for Jump on It. So here's some general observations about the album after having listened to it several times. I think the recording quality overall for a rock album is really good. There seems to be a nice balance to the instruments. I think the low end here really shines. The bass and the drums sound really good. The overall mood of this album is mostly fist in the air, anthemic, party rock and roll. But there are a couple of slower songs, and there are definitely parts of the album that are a little quieter. It's a little bit more dynamic than you might think. One thing that you're going to have a lot of fun with when listening to this album is playing the game I call Spot the Influence. Yeah, there are a ton of different little influences that are going to spark a lot of memories of different bands, different artists, different singers, all over the place. I lost track at a certain point. There were 3 singles released prior to the official release of the album, and please note, this album demands to be played loud. So let's go ahead and shift our focus to the actual songs. The first song is called Too Good at Raising Hell. This was the first single that was released. Right off the bat, we've got a song about raising hell. Generally, that's a pretty good sign in my book, and this song is no exception. The start eases you into the album, but the intensity slowly builds towards the end of the song. This is a ripper of a tune, especially when those horns kick in. It's mostly about the choruses here. There is a nice little guitar solo towards the end, and check out the video for this song. It's definitely inspired by some Beggar's Banquet-like debauchery. A really fun video. Here's the first verse. It's a song Luke wrote the morning after a long night out, thinking he was getting a little too good at partying and maybe should moderate it a little. By the way, Class Azul in the lyrics refers to an expensive tequila. The second song is called Pretty Vicious. This was the 3rd single and obviously is the title track. This is a mid-tempo rocker and it's catchy as hell. If you feel like this song sounds familiar to you, you're right, because Luke has covered Wicked Game by Chris Isaak in the past, and it's obviously a major influence on this tune. The vocals here are really outstanding, and we've got some nice little keyboards towards the end of the tune. The whole song is built around this descending melody line. Here's the chorus. It's a song about a self-assured girl that's seemingly unapproachable, but Luke gets her. Funny enough, the first time I heard this one, I instantly thought of Larry David on Curb Your Enthusiasm saying, pretty, pretty, pretty good. The song isn't pretty good, though. It's pretty great. The third tune is called I Won't Run, and this is another mid-tempo, kind of a meat and potatoes rocker. It would have fit nicely like on an 80s hair metal playlist. Once again, we've got some nice keyboards filling out the song. Let's take a look at this chorus, because once again, this song is all about the chorus. Are you seeing a trend here with these choruses? The song is about standing up and fighting against adversity. Who doesn't love that? The choruses are super melodic and catchy. Another solid tune. The fourth song is called Hands on Me. This is very similar to the previous song, I Won't Run, kind of made from that same mold. Once again, this would fit nicely on an 80s hair metal playlist. And you guessed it, we've got big, hooky choruses here. Here are a few lines from the first verse. It's a tune about a breakup that Luke would like to reverse. I think he wants to get this girl back. It's a nice little track. Not outstanding, but it works. Song number 5 is called Do What You Want. It starts immediately with this little guitar figure that will remind you of AC/DC, but that's about all there is of AC/DC on the song. It's just right up at the front. This is definitely a step up in energy from the previous 3 songs. The horns here are probably my favorite part about this tune. They're really punchy, and they hit towards the end of the choruses really nicely. It's a cool effect. There's even this little vocal mannerism from Luke a la Steven Tyler on this song that you're going to pick up. Think Janie's Got a Gun. He hits this little falsetto note, and boom, instantly in my mind, I was brought back to the 1980s. Here are some of the lyrics from the chorus. Yeah, they're not going to win a Pulitzer with these kind of juvenile and silly lines, but listening to the Struts for the lyrics is like watching a Transformers movie for deep insight into the human condition. Again, it's a good track, but I think the chorus is just a tad overdone with the harmonies. It's not bad, but I also think it may be the weakest song on the album. Song number 6 is called Rockstar. This was the second single off the album and is also the shortest on the album. This is another ripper of a tune. Supposedly the Struts had this one in the works for many years, but could never quite get it right until they got to the sessions for this record. And fortunately, they've now released it. If you ask me, this is the song that most clearly shows that Queen and Freddie Mercury influence on Luke. The chorus here isn't going to win any literary awards, but it's one of, if not the best, on the album. This is just a killer chorus, one of the stronger tunes, and it's catchy as all hell. This is just a fun song. Song number 7 is called Remember the Name. This is another big, bombastic rocker. There's plenty of great horns on this one. I can actually hear a band like Def Leppard covering this song. And listen to the ending of this tune. The ending just slams. Looking at the chorus here, you can see that we've got some silly lyrics again, but trust me, it sounds a lot better than it looks on the screen. This is a song that you would put on when you're getting ready to go out for a fun and wild night. Song number 8 is called Bad Decisions. This is a slower, minor key tune that has some pretty good dynamics to it. Think quiet, loud, and so on. Like many moments on this record, the melody in the verse really struck a familiar note with me. I racked my brain for many minutes trying to figure out where had I heard this before, and I came to the conclusion that this was inspired by Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day, that great Green Day song off of American Idiot. Let me know if, when you're listening to this tune, if that bell is also striking for you. There's some great vocals on this. I think Luke does a super job here. Here are some lyrics from the second verse. This track is about Luke having some regrets the night after making a relationship mistake. It's a fantastic tune and one of my favorites on Pretty Vicious. Just try to get this one out of your head after hearing it a few times. It's just marvelous. Number 9 is called Better Love. It has this great peppy start to it, and it dives into this brilliant chorus. Again, this would not be out of place on a radio station in the 80s. There aren't a lot of bridges on this album, but we've got a bridge here. This track is about Luke trying to convince some girl to be his girlfriend, although she's got a significant other already. From the full lyrics, my money is on Luke winning her over. Another fantastic song. Number 10 is called Gimme Some Blood, yet another mid-tempo rocker with some keys and some horns on it. Tell me that Luke doesn't sound like Pat Monahan from Train on this track. And one other thing that I noticed about this one is that the guitar has some of that Queen Brian May element to it. You know the sound that I'm talking about. Here's the chorus, another big hooky one. I think the song has some of the better lyrics on the record, although I'm not quite sure what this tune is even about. But once again, a fun tune and one that I just love listening to. The 11th and last song on this album is a little bit unusual. It's called Somebody Someday. This is actually a cover of an Ian Hunter song called Irene Wild. Now, if you don't know who Ian Hunter was, he was with the seminal rock band called Mott the Hoople before he went and pursued a really good solo career. If you haven't listened to some of Ian Hunter's solo albums, check them out. There's some great songwriting and singing on those. The reason that this song is on the album is that someone had mentioned to Luke to check out this live version of Irene Wild, and Luke simply fell in love with it. Not the studio version, but the live version. And I believe the live version that Luke was listening to is off of this 1980 live album. So when the band decided that they wanted to record this song, they actually gave Ian a call and they asked him, hey, can we change the title from Irene Wild to Somebody Someday? Because supposedly Irene Wild just didn't ring true for the Struts, maybe a little too specific. Well, Ian said fine, and that's how we ended up with a different title, but essentially the same lyrics. This is the only ballad on Pretty Vicious. It has some nice piano, and there are some strings on this one. I would describe the song as wistful. This is a song about a teenager who gets ignored by a girl, but then he goes out into the world and gets some fame, sees the girl in an audience, and he ignores her in turn. At least that's what it appears to be about for me. So some final thoughts about this album. I think the Struts are a much more fun and listenable band than other retro rockers like Greta Van Fleet, for example. I've listened to the Struts' first 3 albums for several years, and there are some great individual songs on those, but those albums never felt very cohesive or a great album listen. This is different for me. This album feels like I can sit down, put on my headphones or crank up the speakers and listen to the whole thing front to back. I think Pretty Vicious is their most fully realized and most coherent album, although I do like that first album quite a bit as well. If you haven't heard any of the previous records, go check those out. I've got a feeling there might be something on there that you're going to like. A real highlight for me on this record are Luke Spiller's vocals. Just fantastic. Now, he doesn't have the range of Freddie Mercury, but he's got the attitude. He's even got some of those vocal inflections, but he's just a fantastic singer. This record is instantly accessible for listeners. You're going to get this album on the first listen. This is not a Radiohead type of a record, meaning you're not going to have to listen to it 10 times before it starts clicking with you. Yes, the lyrics here could be a little better. There are spots actually in the album where the lyrics are pretty good and clever, but you know what? You don't listen to a band like the Struts for the lyrics. This is music for the hips, not for the brain. Do not come into this record for any kind of intellectual enlightenment. You're going to be disappointed. It's fun, it's danceable, you're going to air guitar to this, and you're going to be singing along. There are earworms throughout. You know that Friday afternoon feeling after a really shitty week at work or at school, and all you want to do is let go? This is the album that you will want to let go to. So grab a beer, fire up a joint, and get your groove on. I'm giving this album an 8 out of 10. Reminder that this is only my rating. Your mileage may vary, so let me know if you liked the album as much as I did, or if you didn't like the album, and let me know why. Don't leave me a comment that just says, it sucks, because I'm not going to engage with that. And finally, before I close out this video, just to let you know, the Struts are on a North American tour as I record this video. I'm actually going to see them in less than 2 weeks in Denver, Colorado. So I'm excited to see the band. I'm excited to hear these new songs in a live environment. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, I'm Paul Crayson. You've been watching Music Mentions. If you like the content of this video, want me to do more, please give me a like. It's all I ask. Maybe also subscribe, hit the notifications. I'll see you guys next time.